بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Let me just put my phone. Today we are going to continue our discussion on فعل. Yesterday was quite a packed day. We discussed a lot about فعل and the fact that that a فعل, like an ism, has meaning in itself. However, an ism does not involve time and tense, but فعل involves time and tense. Therefore, what we have to do is to say, well, what is the major difference between the two? Apart from the fact that they all have a meaning and that one of them has tense, the other has not. These are the two things. Just note this, that in determining an ism, we speak about the four different properties. In determining the fi'l and its characteristics, you have to understand or remember all your pronouns. Very important. These are the two things that really put the two apart and make you focus, so that anytime an ism is mentioned, then you will be thinking about the status of the ism, the number of the ism, the gender of the ism, and the type of the ism. But anytime a fi'l is mentioned, you will be looking at the pronoun in the fi'l, because every fi'l has a fa'il, as we said. Now, to determine that pronoun, you need to remember all your pronouns, both the independent and the attached, because every fi'l has a fa'il. And how do you determine the fa'il? You need to remember how the pronoun behaves or appears in a fi'l. So, for instance, we did take some examples yesterday of nasara, nasara, nasaru, nasarat, nasarata, nasarna, nasarta, nasartuma, nasartum, nasarti, nasartuma, nasartunna, nasartu, nasarna. But all these that is starting with the nasara is madi. That's why it's starting with the root word, right? And then when we went to the mudari, we had yansuru. So the noon now is preceded by a ya. That ya is one of the anita harfs. So yansuru, yansurani, yansuruna, tansuru, tansurani, yansurna, tansuru, tansurani, tansuruna, tansurina, tansurani, tansurna, ansuru, and nansuru for mudari. So this yansuru, ya, an, nan, how do you determine them? You need to remember your pronouns, right? You remember when we were learning the chart, we said each and every one represents a pronoun. So huwa yansuru, huma yansurani, hum yansuruna, hiya tansuru, huma tansurani, hunna yansurna, anta tansuru, antuma tansurani, antum tansuruna, hiya tansurina, sorry, anti tansurina, antuma tansurani, antunna tansurna, ana ansuru, and nahnu nansuru. So you can see that, for instance, if I take an example of tansuru and tansurani and tansuruna, it's about ta, ta, ta. So if something has to do with second person. Tansurina, tansurani, tansurna, second person. Tansuru, second person singular, masculine. Tansurani, second person singular. Second person pair masculine. Tansuruna, second person plural, masculine. Tansurina, second person singular, feminine. Tansurani, second person pair feminine, and then tansurna, second person plural, feminine. Now the ta is important, but the ending is quite important too in fi'l mudari, unlike in fi'l madi. In fi'l madi you have nasara, nasara, nasaru, so it's the end. U, u, and then ta, na. Ta, na, which means none, nasarat, nasarata, nasarna. So you can see that nasara will always start. So the root words start. But In fi'l mudari, you have the anita starting, and then the ending also is also there. Okay, so you need to. Yesterday we gave a chart of how the endings are, and it's actually in your handout. So after looking at the madi with its pronouns, the mudari with its pronouns, we came to the amr and nahi. Now the difference between madi and mudari and then amr and nahi, the amr and nahi, the dua inside them are only the second persons. Only the second persons. Al-mukhatab. Okay? Mukhatab. Anta, antuma, antum. Anti, antuma, antunna. These are the six pronouns that you can get in al-amr and an-nahi. And we also did some observations. We did some submission yesterday that not every nahi, for instance, with the la is a nahi. It can be an observation. How do I know that? Whenever I find that the fi'l mudari is not lightest. Okay? Because we said fi'l mudari can be normal, lightest. Okay? Marfu'un, fi'l mudari marfu', fi'l mudari mansub, fi'l mudari majzoom. Okay? Fi'l mudari, normally it will be rafa. So you see it with a dhamma, yes, marfu'un. But if you see it having the fatha or the sukun, then it is preceded by a harf, either harf of nasb, harf of light, or harf of lightest. Okay, so very important. Now, when we came to the amr and nahi, what we said was that if you are able to know how to conjugate the nahi, the amr, the nahi, which is forbidden, the amr will be easy. But the amr is more complicated or more difficult than the nahi. The nahi, all you have to do is you bring your mudari, make it lightest, and put la. So ta'kulu, so it becomes ta'kul, and then I will put my la ta'kul, finish. Ta'kuluna, ta'kulu, by dropping the noon, of course, and then la ta'kulu, don't eat. Okay. But in case of the command, you don't only make the fi'l mudari lightest, you also have to drop the ta. Why ta? Not amza or noon or ya? Because amr and nahi only deal with the ta, and that's why it's only the ta that is dropped. Okay? So when I say taktub, anta taktubu, I want to say right. Anta taktubu is the normal fi'l mudari, but I want to say right. Oktub, how does it come? I'm not talking about a language there. Here, if it is the language, I'll just tell you taktubu means you are writing. Oktub means write. Then you have to memorize this. You know, that's the difference between learning Nahaw and learning the Loga. If I say taktubu means you are writing or you write, Oktub means write. You have to remember this, else you are lost. But if I want to tell you the Nahaw aspect is for you to be able to know how to say write in Arabic, you do this. Bring the mudari, make the mudari lightest, remove the ta, and then bring a helper alif. So these are the steps. So taktubu becomes taktub, and then you remove the ta, it becomes ktub. Then you bring a helper alif. The helper alif will have dhamma in this case, and it becomes uktub. So that's the process. How do I determine it is uktub, not aktub or iktub? We mentioned yesterday that when the fi'l mudari, normal fi'l mudari, has a last but one letter with a dhamma, then the helper alif will always be a dhamma alif, okay, alif dhamma. But if it's the last but one letter of the normal fi'l mudari is having either fatha or kisra, then the helper alif of the amr becomes kisra, like jalasa yajlisu. So yajlisu, the lam is having kisra. So when we come to the amr, we'll say ijlis. You don't say ujlis. Okay. Kharaja yakhruju, ukhruj. You don't say ikhruj. Kharaja yakhruju, because the ru, which is the last but one letter in the normal fi'l mudari, is having dhamma. So when we come to the amr, the helper alif will also take dhamma. Okay. So this is the command and the forbidding. If the forbidding is having the la, you see the la there, you think that it's always forbidding. No. If the fi'l mudari is normal with a dhamma, then there's no forbidding there. Okay, it's an observation. Okay, when I say la ta'kulu ta'ama, la ta'kulu ta'ama, you do not eat food. But la ta'kul ta'ama, do not eat food. So la ta'kul Making it sukun or making it lightest in that case means that that la is la an-nahiya. But when I say la ta'kulu ta'am, you do not, that la is la an-nafiya. What I'm saying is that I'm negating the fact that you do it. Okay? So these are some of the things, but we will go through the slides that I'm going to share today to throw more light on our mudarats, and maybe we'll take one or two concepts again in addition today before the end of the day, inshallah. Let me show you my slides. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Okay, so I hope you can see my slides. Can you see my slides, please? Can you see my slides? Okay, mashallah. Good, thank you. We are going to do a continuation of the Madi, Mudari, Amr. We'll look at some details, but please get focused. We are talking about Fa'il now. After this, we'll talk about some concepts that are here and there, and then we are done with the course. By the close of the week, we'll do more of practices, inshallah, the following days. Now, let's look here. With regards to conjugating of Fi'il Madi, that is the past tense. Conjugation means what? Moving it from huwa to huma to whom. Here, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, ana, nahnu. I mean, moving it from this dua to that dua to that dua to all the pronouns. What really happens in there? This is an information for us to share. Tasrif, tasrif. Conjugation means tasrif. Okay, good. What do these words have in common? Okay, now we are going to talk about the nasara, nasara, nasaru, nasarat, nasarata, nasarna, nasaru, nasarta, or nasarti, and so on. What do they really have in common? When we say what they have in common, yes, Aisha, yes, tasrif. Okay, when we say what they have in common, it means what can you see replicating in them? So the a ending indicates who did the action. So here, the a at the end for nasara. So the a will tell you is huwa. So when I say akela, the a tells you is huwa. Huwa akela, huwa qala, huwa kharaja, huwa darasa, huwa akela, huwa amila. So the a will tell you it's huwa. So there is a hidden huwa in the word nasara. Okay, he helped. So the word is help. The word help is nasara. He is inside. Okay, and the at the end here tells you that it is huwa. Okay, if you change the ending to the ta'u in this with the sukun here, now the meaning is she. So nasarat, nasarat. So this ta sukun, whenever you see it attached to a fi'il, particularly a fi'il in this format with three-letter word, it means it's here. If you say nasara, this are like two of them, so nasara, it becomes both. Okay, nasara, nasara, two of them. Okay, nasaru, like a group of them. Okay, nasaru is like group of them. Okay, a lot of them, it means they all helped. Okay, these are more a table to help us do that. Yesterday, you remember, of course, you remember this table. Anytime, in fact, without even the headings and these sides, you should be able to by now know this table. Anytime we see three lines, we mean mufrad, muthanna, jamu, singular, pair, plural, or dual, plural. And then when we do this masculine, feminine, you know what it means, okay? And so the first line is the masculine line, the second line is the feminine line. And both this and this, they represent something here. Who can tell me what is here? What is supposed to be here on the table? What is supposed to be here on the table? Who can tell me here? That puts this and this together according to our studies. Yes, so I'm not the only one in the class. I'm asking a simple question. What is supposed to be here? What line is this? What line? Try again. The gender, this is the gender. But what is putting both this together? These two lines, according to our table. If you are really studying, you will know. Absolutely, Rehan. It's the third person. So the whole of this is the third person. So we have the person here, we have the number at the top, and then we have the gender here. Okay, so very good, is the third person. Okay, so Hua, so you can see we did mention that the third person is very peculiar with the ha, who, or maybe he, but it's still her, who. So anytime you see the ha in the pronouns, then you know that it's a third person pronoun. Then you look at the details. If it is hua, then it is singular masculine, huma pair masculine or masculine pair, hum plural masculine. Here is what? Singular feminine, huma singular pair feminine, and then hunna is plural feminine. So hua nasara, the a says it's hua. Huma, you can even say that the a at the end is this a. So anytime you see huma, nasara, akela, kataba, darasa, kharaja, rama, and so on. Hum nasaru, kharaju, darasu, katabu, amilu, dahiku, and so on. Here nasarat. هي نصرت، هي دخلت، هي جلست، هي طبخت، هي شاءت, and so on. Okay. هما نصرتا، هما دخلتا، هما كتبتا، هما درستا، هما دارتا, and so on. هن نصرنا، هن نصر. Now note this. This is called Nun Niswa. Nun Niswa. And anytime we see it, you see that there is a spoon before it. Okay. This nun niswa, the one that does not have a ta in the middle, is for hunna. Okay, but if you see this sukun with a ta and then nun shadda, then it's for antunna. You have to note this nun, very important. And this is the sukun nun. Yesterday I shared with you that the reason why it does not get affected, any change does not take them away, is because of this sukun. So don't forget there's a sukunna. Sukunna is for hunna. Okay. And these are the meanings in English. You need to maintain understanding the meaning in English so that we'll go together. Huwa nasara, he helped. Huma nasara, both of them helped. Hum nasaru, they all helped. Hiya nasarat, she helped. Huma nasarata, both of them helped. And hunna nasarna, they, feminine plural, helped. Okay. Now, for the remaining pronouns, that is second person, anta, entuma, and first person, ana, nahnu. Okay, how to make the words, okay, using the rest of the pronoun. Now let's check this, how to make the these anta, these lines and the last lines. Okay, if the word is nasara, okay, it will end with a sukun. So if it is having the a at the end like this, it will have end with a sukun when we want to get it for anta and antum, antuma and ana and nahnu. So all we have to do is to see the sukun, then you add the endings. Okay. So anytime you see the sukun and the endings, that it will be for these levels, for anta, antuma, ana, and na. So for instance, you say nasar plus anta, it becomes nasar ta. You remember I said we remove the an. That's what we said. So in this case, nasar ta anta, antuma. You just take the an away and then you put the tuma and then you make the ra sukun. Nasar tuma. Nasar, remove the an, bring the tum here, and then make the ra sukun. Instead of nasara, you say nasar tum. Okay, anti nasar ti, antuma nasar tuma, antunna nasar tunna. Have you seen the nasar tunna? Okay. So the nasar is starting because it is madi. Don't forget, madi does not have anything before the root letter. Okay. So this is for anta, you helped. Anta nasarta, antuma nasartuma, both of you helped. Antum nasartum, all of you helped. Anti nasarti, you singular feminine helped, and tuma nasartuma, both of you helped, and the both of you, of course, feminine here, and antunna nasartunna, all of you feminine helped. Okay, so that's how. What about the ana and nahnu? The same thing. You have the sukun on the ra. So ana nasartu, nahnu nasarna. Okay, ana nasartu, nahnu nasarna. Okay, so very, very important for us to note. Good. Now let me give you a tip. When it comes to fi'l mudari, we just finished fi'l madi. The fi'l mudari for ana, in the case of, for instance, aslama, uslimu. So uslimu, anytime you hear u is for I. U, u. Okay? Of course, depending on the kind or the family of the fi'l, it can either be a or u, any fi'l. It can be a or u. Yesterday we spoke about this. We said that depending on the family of the fi'l, the hamza can either be u or a. For instance, if it is darasa, it becomes what? Adrusu, not udrisu, no, adrusu. But for instance, this is aslama, uslimu. The difference between, of course, there's even the word salima, salima, and then aslama. Okay, the difference between these are two different families. Okay, when we come to sarf, you know those families. There are 10 families in Arabic language. If you know them, you will know how all the words behave, and you will be able to conjugate all kinds of words, inshallah. So the tip here is that the difference between this and that is the hamza and then the meme. So the hamza tells you that is a fi'l, and the meme tells you it's an ism. You see the trick here. So any word coming with them, I didn't mention this, that any word in Arabic that coming in this format where you have it mim dhamma mu, then definitely is an ism. Okay, this is just a tip with regards to the relationship between mudari and an ism, where they all start with dhamma, but one is having the anita harf here, but the other one having a meme. This one having a meme is automatically an ism. This one is fi'il mudari. So uslimu, I submit. Muslimun is a Muslim. U'adzinu, I call the adhan. Mu'adzinun is someone who calls the adhan. U'allimu, I teach. And mu'allimun is a teacher. You will enjoy this a lot when we come to sarf, where you realize that every single word have 10 members of its own family, and you see how the formula that is used to identify them. Furthermore, in fi'l mudari conjugation, anytime you have the u or a at the beginning, then it is about I. Don't forget, I. Ana azhabu and ana u'allimu. So a and u is always like that. And whenever you hear na or nu, is for what? We. Na or nu is we. Nadrusu and nu'allimu. Nadrusu, nu'allimu. Whenever you hear ya or you, is he. Yeah. Ya, you sounds more like a Chinese, right? But this is ya and you. Ya huwa ya'lamu, huwa ya'budu, wa nahnu nu'allimu, wa nahnu nudarrisu. Okay? Sorry. Huwa ya'lamu, huwa ya'budu, and huwa yu'allimu. Huwa yashrabu, and huwa yufassiru. Yashrabu wa yufassiru, depending on the family of the fi'l. Okay? So, but anywhere you hear ya, you is for he, na, nu is for we, and a'u is for I. Okay? Moving on. Ya'budani, for instance. Ya'budani. Where have you seen this ending? Look at this ani. You remember that? Muslimun, Muslimani, Muslimuna. You remember that? The ani. Now, this where some of us, the students, get confused. That this is Ya'budani. What is the difference between this Ya'budani and Muslimani? You see, Muslimani is starting with a meme, so definitely is an ism. But Ya'budani is starting with a ya, one of the anita, so it's a fail. And it is the fail that is having the ending of ani. That is part of it being normal. So in the case of fail mudari, we say it's normal. But if it is ma'bud, for instance, Muslimani, then we say that the ending is heavy. Okay, in that case, it's an ism. So don't confuse between the Muslim charge and this one, which we call al-asma al-af'al al-khams in our nahu. But for this particular course, we say it's a fail mudari normal. Okay. Yeah, you beginning plus ani ending. We discussed this is for both of us. Okay. So ya and ani. Ya and ani is for both of them. Ya bodani, both of them worship. Okay. So ya and ani is always for both of them. Ya or you plus na. Okay. Ya and you plus na. Una from plus una here. Ya boduna. So abada is actually the root word. The reason why we are mentioning this for you to be able to realize and look into the word. You see, this program of Nahau not only teaches you the Nahau, but also gives you the idea of what you are looking into. Now you look more into the words than just reading it on the surface. So when you say Ya'buduna, your eyes will be taking this one off as the sign of Mudare, this both of them. This one tells you, the Ya and Una tells you that it is that it is for they, that is third person plural, they. That abada is the root word of the fail that talks about worshiping. Okay. Ya, you plus na, N-A is for what? Is for the third person plural feminine. So ya na, so ya abud na, sukun na, ya abud na is for third person feminine plural. Okay, they worship. And then ta at the beginning of the fi'l with dhamma is normal for you, singular masculine, ta'budu, or here. So anta or here will deal with this. You remember when we said anta ta'budu and here ta'budu, okay? But both of them can use that. I'm sure the explanation is here. Yes. So ta'budu, you worship, okay? Ta'budu, you worship. Ta anta is like anta, okay? But here also use it this. And then ta and ani, you, both of you, ta'budani, okay? Ta'budani. And ta'buduna, if it is ta and una. Ta'budna, if it is you, all of you, okay? All of you, feminine is ta'budna. So ta could also mean she. That's what I was explaining here. Here, ta'budu, you would need context to figure out if it is referring to she or is referring to you, okay? And ta and ina is for you, singular feminine. Anti takulina or anti talbasina. Okay? Ta and ina is always for second person plural, a second person singular feminine. Okay? Now these are related to the nasb of il mudara, and these are the harfs of light. An, lan, izan, kay. Okay? Hatta and okay. And lan, li, kay, and izan, and izan. This izan shouldn't be here, right? No, izan shouldn't be here. Should have been a mistake, I'm sure. An, lan, li, kay, and hatta. And izan. Okay, izan is here. Izan, allan, izan, and hatta. Okay, yes, it's correct. Okay, these ones make the fi'il mudara light. So fi'il mudara that appears after these has to be light. Light means mansub, okay? Like for instance, yadrusu, he studies, an yadrusa, to study. He wants to study, yuridu an yadrusa. So yadrusa, why is it having fatha? Because of the an. Lan yadrusa, because of the lan is taken fatha. Likay yadrusa, is also taken fatha because of the kay, and then hatta yadrusa, the same thing, because of the hatta is having light. And then yu'minuna and an yu'minu or lan yu'minu or likay yu'minu or hatta yu'minu, the noon will drop. So light means either making it fatha or dropping of the noon, depending on what kind of pronoun you are talking about. Remember that the hunna and antunna form do not change, right? You remember yesterday. So hunna yaktubna and hunna lan yaktubna. So the na at the end, or the sign for the second person plural feminine do not change, as well as the third person plural feminine. They do not drop the noon. Antunna and hunna never drop the noon in all cases. Okay. Now, when we look at the lightest form, they also have their harps in lam, lamma, wal, fal, and li. We did mention yesterday that the li is the actual harf but it can come mostly in this form in the Quran. Wal fal. فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي. So فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي is actually you've been using this lam, which is harf jazm al-mudara. It causes the fi'l mudara to be jazm or lightest. Okay, so you just have to note these harfs and these harfs. You know, harfs of nasb, or harfs of light and harfs of lightest. These harfs make the fi'l mudara majzoom, and this one, sorry, mansub, and makes this these ones make the fi'l mudara majzoom. These are the examples. So these hurufs, they make the fi'l mudara in the lightest form. Lightest means it takes sukun. So yansuru, in yansuru. Okay, yansuru, in yansuru. So in preceding the fi'l mudara makes the fi'l mudara lightest. Lightest means sukun. Lam yansur. Okay, of course you go and see the meaning of these words, all of them, and how they are used, inshallah. And then, so let's look at the comparing the light and lightest. So for instance, you say yansuru, this is a normal version of the word, yansuru. But when I say yansura, it's light version. Yansur is the lightest version. Yansurani with the ni at the end is normal. Yansura, when the noon gets dropped, it can either be light or lightest, depending on the context. Yansuruna is normal. Yansuru is either light or lightest, depending on the context, you'll be able to know. Ansuru is normal, ana. Okay, I help. Ansura is light, and ansur is lightest. Okay, but hunna yansurna and antunna tansurna, their light and lightest form looks like the normal. They do not accept any change because they are feminine plural, either second person or third person. They do not drop the noon. Their noon is important. They don't drop it. Remember, past tense does not have light or lightest. Very important information. The past tense is only one type, no light or lightest. Only the present tense has this feature. Okay. Now we'll take a short break and come back, and then we'll come and talk about the fa'il. If it is inside, mustatirun, or outside, barizun. Stay on. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Back. Assalamu alaikum. I hope you can hear me. Okay. Now, in our discussion, I mean, even whilst we try to separate between the signs that make us identify the Madi and the Mudara, or even the Amr, we need to remember our fa'il. No fa'il without a fa'il, as we said. And so how do we identify our fa'il? We have just mentioned one, and that is identifying the ending to know that there is a pronoun. And those pronouns that we all mentioned are all inside pronouns, okay? So when I say, for instance, darabna, darabna, you remember when we say the anta and antuma, all that line, as well as the ana and nahnu line, you will see the fi'l amr, sorry, fi'l madi will have the sukun before the pronouns that shows the doer. Okay, you need to know that's sukun. Okay, it has to do with madi. Okay, in this case, we say that it is madi and the doer is, you look at the pronoun that is attached, that is at the end. In this case, we don't call them attached pronoun, we call them inside pronouns or inside doers. But the doer can also be outside. So for instance, when I say akela ta'ama, akela at-ta'ama, he ate the food, the doer is inside. But when I say akela Muhammadun ta'ama, I mean Muhammad ate the food. So akela Muhammadun, Muhammadun becomes the doer. In this case, I will not say the akela, the doer is huwa. No, I will have to go further and see that Muhammad is the doer. How do you determine that? Then the ulama say it's very easy. Whenever you read an ayah or you read a surah, or sorry, a statement, an Arabic statement, don't conclude in saying the doer is mustatir inside or barizun outside until you finish reading. So you read through. Now, moment you finish reading the fail, particularly if the fail is in huwa or here form, okay, like akelat or akela. So when I say akelat, and then I move forward, and then I say ta'am, which is maf'ul bihi, then the doer is here. But when I say akelat, then Fatima too, then ta'am, then Fatima is the doer. How did I know that? I would say, just look at the first ism that is in rafa status after the fail. Any ism that you see, marfu'un, after the fail is the fa'il, and that fa'il is baris, is outside. But if you move and you don't see any rafa ism, then the doer is inside. Okay, then the doer is inside. And the doer can only be outside if the fi'il is either in the huwa or here form. Very important. Qala or qalat. But when you hear qalu, then the doer must be inside. It can't be outside. When I said here, when you hear qalata, then the doer must be inside. It can't be outside. So this is the trick. The doer can only be outside if the fi'il is either in huwa form or here form. Very important. Okay. So let's look at the write-ups here. How do you say the teacher helped? For instance, in Arabic, this is not a pronoun. So what do we do? Of course, in this case, the teacher is not a pronoun. Is an ism here. The teacher. Okay, the teacher. So teacher is the doer here. So it's not a pronoun. Now, to understand this, we need to know that in Arabic, the doer of the fi'l can either be inside or outside. An example of an inside is the madi, fi'l madi chat. You remember the fi'l madi chat? Huwa nasara. To the nasara, huwa. Nasara, huma. Nasaru, hum. Nasarat, here. Nasarata, huma. Nasarna, hunna. Nasarta, anta. Nasartuma, antuma. Nasartum, antum. Nasarti, anti. Nasartuma, antuma. Nasartunna, antunna. Nasartu, ana. And nasarna, nahnu. All these are having the inside doers. Okay? That's what it means by here that we learned. Now, there were pronouns in front of each of them to show the pronoun that is actually within the fi'l. Okay? If you want to say the teacher helped, which conjugation do you use, since each fi'l has inside dua. So the teacher is already out. Now, which conjugation do you use? The answer is here. Only the huwa or here can be used with an outside pronoun. So you say the teacher helped. So if you see Nasara alone, you might be thinking he helped. Then you came here, then there is another word here, ustazu. So what will you say? He helped? Ustaz? No. No, it has to be, if this ustazu is in Rafa, then this is the dua. But note, very important information here. If I say Nasar al-Ustadha, you see the Ustaz is not in Rafa status. Therefore, the dua is inside, and this one becomes the done to, maf'ul. So if the fi'il is in huwa form, you look for at the end of the statement, if there is any Rafa ism, then the Rafa ism is the fa'il. Else, the fa'il is inside. That's the information. So if this fa'il should have been inside, then this one wouldn't be u. If it is u, then it is the outside dua. So the fa'il is ustadu, the fa'il is not huwa. Okay? Good. Inside and outside dua. So what is the status of ustaz in that statement? It is rafa, because we said nasar al ustazu. Okay? That means it is the dua. When you have an outside dua, it takes the place of the inside dua. So the inside dua is downplayed. You don't mention it at all. Okay? So it is not he, the teacher, helped. No, it is simply the teacher helped. So you can't say Nasar al-Ustaz. You say Nasar, he helped, and then al-Ustaz, the teacher, or he, the teacher, helped. No, you translate it as the teacher helped. Okay? So whenever there is an outside dua, the inside dua is downplayed. Okay? Outside duas, they need only two conditions. So there are two conditions to have an outside dua. Number one, it has to be after the fail. Okay? Does not have to be immediately after the fail. Okay? But it has to be just after the fail. After the fail, wherever it is in the sentence or in the ayah, it is if it is in Rafa status or it's a word in Rafa status, and ism in Rafa status, then is the dua. Number two, the second condition is that it has to be in Rafa status. So number one, it has to be after the fail. Number two, it has to be marfu. These are the two conditions for an outside dua. But remember that the only time you look for an outside dua is when the fi'il is in the huwa or iya form. That is like nasara or nasarat, kataba or katabat, dakhala or dakhalat, kharaja or kharajat, labisa or labisat, kataba or katabat. That's the only time you will look for an outside dua. Therefore, anytime there is a huwa form of a fi'il, don't jump into saying the fa'il is huwa. Don't do that. First, look into the sentence and ensure there is no any rafa'ism. Then you will say the dua is huwa. Okay? Very important. Here, for instance, you say Nasara al-Muslimani. Look, Nasara al-Muslimani. This Muslimani is a rafa'ism. Marfu'un. What is the sign of rafa? Ani was pair. You remember? Okay? How to tell the rafa, how to tell the status. One of the how to tell the status is the ending combination. Ani is rafa. So how do you translate this? The two Muslims helped. Now, how do you determine that? When the moment this one is in huwa form, I shouldn't jump and say the dua is huwa. No. Move forward and see. Would you see a rafa'ism? Yes, this is a rafa'ism. Marfu. Therefore, this is the dua. Okay? Is this an outside or inside dua? Definitely is an outside dua. Since it matches both the condition. Number one, it came after the fail. Number two, it is marfu, and therefore it's an outside dua. And of course, number three, the condition is that the fail is in huwa form, right? Good. Now, we are now going to look at attached pronouns to fail. Now, there's difference between the pronouns inside the fail and attached pronoun. I think this question came on some time ago, and it's very important for you to be critical, to critically look at it. When I say darabna, we hit, or akelna, or sharibna, then that na is an inside dua, nahnu. But when I say katabnahu, now note, katabnahu, or katabnaha, or fahimnahu, We understood it. So the who is an attached pronoun. So it's the who that is an attached pronoun, not the na. The na is the inside doer. You need to understand this, and some of the clarification will be made here. For instance, nasara ka. Now note this, nasara ka. You can see that in the nasara there is hua, and there is another ka here. Somebody will say, where is the hua? There is no hua. There is nasara. Yes, you remember nasara, hua nasara, huma nasara. Don't forget, every fi'il has a fa'il. Okay, so nasara, the hua is inside, and ka is anta. So nasara ka, he held you. So what is the ka? The ka here is the attached pronoun. Okay, ka is from the attached pronoun, and when you find an attached pronoun on a fi'il, ignore. You remember the steps. Ignore the pronoun and translate the fi'il. So we ignore this and we translate he held, and then you. Okay, so nasara means he helped. Now add the ka, which is the pronoun, and it becomes what? He helped you. Qatalahum. You see, qatalahum. You can see qatala is a fi'il, the hum is an attached pronoun. So qatala is huwa. Hum is an attached pronoun, which means whom. Okay, is there an attached pronoun here? Yes, the attached pronoun is whom. Is the attached pronoun, what is how do you identify the attached pronoun? Because it comes just after the fi'il, and when it is in that case, it becomes in the nasb status. Okay, so what do we do next? The first thing is we separate them, we translate the fi'il, we translate the pronoun, and then we put them together. Ignore the attached pronoun and translate the qatala, he fought. Now translate the attached pronoun whom, then it becomes what? He fought whom. You can say that. It's allowed here. He fought whom. Okay. Okay. Good. Now let's look at pronoun status review. Rafa pronouns, remember, Rafa pronouns are all the independent pronouns and pronouns inside the fi'il. Okay? Pronouns inside the fi'il are doers, and pronouns standing alone outside are also in Rafa status. Don't forget. Okay, so inside pronouns are fa'ils or the doers, and all doers are in Rafa status. And outside pronouns, standing in independent pronouns standing alone is also in Rafa status. Nasb, when attached to a harf nasb, okay, and ism becomes what? In nasb status. And when attached to a fi'il, then the pronoun becomes in nasb status, right? Because they are details. So anytime you see an ism preceded by harf of nasb, like inna, anna, ka'anna, bi'anna, lakinna, layta, la'alla, and so on, then the ism becomes in nasb status. Or if the ism is attached to a fi'il, as we have just seen, nasaraka. So these are the two instances that you can have the nasb of an ism. What about jar? When an ism is attached to a harf, after a harf, like batakala wa min fi anala hatta ila, any of those, when they precede an ism, then the ism will be in jar status. Or when the ism is attached to another ism, sorry, when the pronoun is attached to another ism. So if a pronoun is preceded by a harf of jar, sorry, I was talking about ism. Pronoun that is attached to a harf of jar, like fihi ayatin, fihi ayatun, fihi. So the word fi and he is jar wa majrur. Why is the he majrur? Is because of the fi. Okay, but remember the he, the kasra of ha that is attached to the fi is not sign of jar because it is non-flexible. Okay, so it's fi mahal jar. Now, when attached to an ism, a pronoun becomes also in the status of jar. You remember, idafa. Anytime you attach a pronoun to a fi'il, an ism, it becomes like this. Kitabuka. Kitabuka. So this is mudaf and this is mudaf ilayh. So anytime a pronoun is attached to an ism, it's mudaf ilayhi. Okay? And also if it is preceded by harf of jar, like ila, ilayhi. So ila is harf jar, he is majrur. So jar majrur. Okay? So very important information that I want us to pick from here is that rafa, nasb, jar are all related to isms. Okay? Isms can be in rafa, sorry, Yes, pronouns can be in rafa if they are standing alone or they are inside a fi'l. The pronouns can be in nasb status when they are preceded by any of the harf of nasb, inna, anna, ka, anna, bi, anna, lakinna, layta, la'alla, or if they are attached to a fi'l. Attached to a fi'l. So pronoun attached to a fi'l is mansub. But pronoun attached to an ism is what? Majroor. Okay? It becomes mudaf ilay. In this case, it becomes maf'ul bihi. Okay? Very important. Now let's come to maf'ul bihi. We have learned that if a jumla, in a jumla, a fi'liya, the detail of the jumla is maf'ul, right? Jam'u of it is mafa'il. That is done tos, okay, or victims of the action. Now, what is this maf'ul bihi or maf'ul? Anytime we say a fi'l has a fa'il, then there's something called maf'ul, something that the action of the fa'il fell onto. Okay, what is it about? Okay, we say that these mafa'il are in nasb status. They are always mansub, right? Now, details that's maf'ul, they provide additional information about the action by answering the questions such as who, what, okay, who, what was the action done to, or where, or when, or how, or when was the action done. All these questions are part of maf'ul. Anything that answers this question is maf'ul bihi. Isn't that interesting? So in Arabic grammar, there are 5 main types of done tos or maf'uls or victims of an action. Either maf'ul bihi or maf'ul fihi or maf'ul lahu or maf'ul hal or maf'ul mutlaq. So maf'ul bihi asks about who or what was the action done to. So when I say, for instance, darabtuhu, I'm told that I like using I'm told that I like using darabtu because my mother used to beat me at Makaranta. But it's just that daraba is okay. But okay, kallamtuhu. When I say kallamtuhu, I spoke to him. So kallamtu, I spoke to him. So that who did I? The question is who did I speak to? So that who is maf'ul. Okay. Ra'aytuhu, I saw it. What did you see? Who? Maf'ul. So this is not as maf'ul bihi. Now, what is maf'ul fihi? Maf'ul fihi, for instance, ra'aytuhu amsan. I saw him yesterday. So it answers the question of when. Okay? Ra'aytuhu amsan. I saw him yesterday. Aw nimtu laylan. I slept during the night. So he spoke about either when or where. So the when or where are also maf'ul fihi, but it's not at maf'ul fihi. That is, where did the action take place, or when did the action take place? Maf'ul lahu is why did the action take place. For instance, kallamtuhu muta'attifan. I spoke to him pityingly. Okay, that means why? Yes, why did the action take place, or why was the action carried out? Okay, for instance, when I say maf'ul lahu, azhabu ila al-madrasati talaban. Okay, azhabu ila al-madrasati talaban lil-ilm. Okay, azhabu ila al-madrasati talaban lil-ilm. Now the word talaban is explaining why I go to school. Azhabu ila al-madrasati talaban. I go to the school seeking for knowledge. So that's the why. So anytime it's also in nasb status. Don't forget, it's always in nasb status. Okay. Dakhala ilayya bakiyan. Dakhala ilayya bakiyan. He came to me crying. So the word bakiyan is nasb, and that nasb is in the status of maf'ul, but maf'ul hal, because it shows how did the action take place. He came to me crying. Okay. أو دخل إلي فجأة. He came to me suddenly. So that is maf'ul hal. What about maf'ul mutlaq? Maf'ul mutlaq is talking about how badly something happened. Okay? Akaltu ta'ama aklan. I ate the food, what I'm eating. I mean, you are just trying to say how badly the thing happened, or how severely the thing happened. Okay? وَدُكَّتِ الْجِبَالُ دَكًّا. Okay, so this is how maf'ul mutlaq happens. Of course, maf'ul mutlaq is always easy to identify because it always repeats the fi'l. Okay, dakka dakkan, daraba daraban, shariba shurban. Okay, or shurbatan. It can be in either way. So these are all kinds of maf'ul, and we will come across them as we go. Just note that the maf'ul is not only bihi, the maf'ul can be fihi, it can be lahu, it can be maf'ul hal, and it can be maf'ul mutlaq. 5 different kinds of maf'ul. Okay, very important. Types of done to. This is what we just spoke about. When you have a fi'l, you have a set of questions to ask. Example, akela, ate. Akela, he ate. It's actually he ate, okay? Who ate? Rafa. So the who is the Rafa. Who did the action? Because it is the doer. The rest of the question of what did he eat? Maf'ul bihi. So he ate akala at-ta'ama. Why did he eat? Why? Akala at-ta'am ju'an. Because he was hungry, right? Where or when did he eat? Akala at-ta'ama laylan. Laylan becomes what? Maf'ul fihi. How did he do the eating? Musri'an. Musri'an kana ya'kulu musri'an. He was doing it very, very quickly. Okay, of course, because he was hungry. That's maf'ul hal. Wa akala al-ta'ama aklan. He ate it, what an eating, so badly. So I just have to say, I have to repeat, I have to get the masdar of the fi'l akala. So I just repeat the fi'l in a nasb, put it an ism, it's called masdar, in its mansub. So these questions always arise about what or who or where or when or how or why or how badly an action was done. Very important information here, right? Good. Now, these are details. Okay, we can just skip this because these are what we just spoke about. But this is an example. وَرَفَعْنَا فَوْقَكُمْ طُورًا وَرَفَعْنَا فَوْقَ. You see, the word فَوْقَ. فَوْقَ is talked about where, okay? وَرَفَعْنَا, we raised. Okay, where did we raise? فَوْقَ, okay? Above, above. So the above here is maf'ul, and that's why you can see that it's mansub, right? It's nasb, maf'ul fihi. At-tura is what we actually raise. So this is the what, and this is where. This is the what, and this is the where. So this is maf'ul, or huwa mudaf, kum is mudaf ilayh, and this is maf'ul bihi. So there is maf'ul fihi, and there is maf'ul bihi. So you can have more than one maf'ul, of course. Good. Okay. And then more examples here of the maf'uls, components of jumla fi'liya. Okay. Every fi'il in a sentence consists of the fi'il itself, the fa'il, the maf'ul. The maf'ul we said can be maf'ul bihi, lahu, fihi, hal, mutlaq. We just mentioned it. Inside means the pronoun is inside the fi'il. Fundamentally, the details are all in nasb status. This is what we say. كل المفاعيل في حالة الإيه؟ في حالة النصب. They are all in nasb status. But don't forget these three important information: the action, the doer, and the done to, or the detail or victim of an action. Very important. These are the components of jumla fi'liya. Okay, very important. Okay, jumla fi'liya components. In addition, there are details. Okay, there are details that are more than just one nasb word. As we said, for example, they can be jar or majroor. Of course, apart from the maf'ul, you can have jar majroor, which can also become a detail. Okay, a jar or majroor. For instance, when I say zahabtu ilayhi, zahabtu ilayhi, I went to him. So that jar wa majroor, even though it is an muta'alliq bi fi'l, but it can also be maf'ul bihi. Sorry, maf'ul fihi in this case. Where did you go? I went to him. So the word to him, I went to him. To whom did you go? The question is, to him I went. So that him, to him becomes maf'ul also, maf'ul bihi. It can be maf'ul bihi, but at the same time MBK. An example here, I ate in the room. The question is, where did you eat? So the in the room, the word in the room in this case becomes what? Maf'ul fihi, because that's where you did the eating, right? Even though we say it's jar wa majrur mbk muta'alliq bi khabar, but it can also be said to be maf'ul fihi. Please note this, very important. Okay, in the room is not one word. It cannot be one word. In this case, it's a fragment. Okay, in Arabic we would say fil ghurfa. What is maf'ul? The maf'ul is the action or the victim. For instance, when I say allamnahu, we taught him. So the question is, who did we teach? So this is the maf'ul bihi, the one we teach him, because it answers the question, who did we teach? Okay. Dakhaluhu, they entered it. It also answered the question, where did they enter? Okay, so it is it that they enter. Also maf'ul bihi. Okay, inni da'awtu qawmi laylan wa naharan. So qawmi, the question is, who did you call? I call my people. Okay, what about the issue of layl? So if my people is maf'ul and it's mudaf, he is mudaf ilay. Laylan, what about laylan? Another maf'ul, but this maf'ul is maf'ulun fihi. Maf'ulun fihi. So this maf'ul bihi and this is maf'ul fihi. This both of them. Okay. So this is a maf'ul fihi because it answers when did I invite them. The time is in night and in day. Okay. So this maf'ul fihi bihi is very important. Normal sequence of jumla al-fi'liya. The normal sequence is to have the fi'il, the fa'il, the maf'ul, and the rest can have mbk, muta'alliq bi fi'il, but at the same time, but this is the normal sequence. So unusual sequence is for you to have the maf'ul, the fi'il, and the fa'il. This is unusual, but sometimes it can happen where the maf'ul will come before the fi'il itself. Okay? When you say iyaka na'budu, iyaka is maf'ul. Okay? But in this case, there are reasons for that. Tawakkaltu ala Allah, we rely on Allah. Okay? Sorry, tawakkalna ala Allah, we rely on Allah. What if we say ala Allahi tawakkalna? Ala Allahi tawakkalna. Now, the meaning here is more of balagha reason. Okay, it's not a nahaw reason. It shows that it's only Allah, only on Him do we rely. Okay, so it shows what we call exclusivity. Okay, so whenever you see jar wa majrur or maf'ul bihi in this case coming before the fi'l, then there is a sense of exclusivity in the meaning. Okay, amanna bihi wa alayhi tawakkalna. Amanna bihi, order is not switch, it's normal. Amanna, we, so amanna nahnu, amanna, the dua is nahnu, bihi jar wa majrur, mbk, and it can also be maf'ul bihi, what we believe in. Okay, maf'ul bihi. But when we say alayhi tawakkalna, okay, in this case, and we only rely on him. So only, the issue of only came because the jar wa majrur came before the fi'l itself. Okay, how would you say Allah helped all of you? Okay, you will say, you would need to bring the attached pronoun all of you, kum, on nasara. So you say nasarakum, nasarakumullah, nasarakumullah. So if you say nasarakumullah, it's a normal statement. Okay, where we have the fi'il, you have the fa'il, even though in this case the maf'ul came before the fa'il. Okay, don't forget, this is not huwa, it is Allah, Lafzul Jalala. Anytime you see a jumla, we say go further and see if there is a rafa ism. This becomes the fa'il. Okay, but let me say something here before we go that. Nasarakumullah, okay? But when I want to say iyyakum nasarallahu, when I say iyyakum nasarallahu, that means I'll bring the antum to the beginning. It becomes iyyakum. Then that will mean it's only you, okay, that Allah helped. Of course, and that one will not be, and that's why it cannot be like that. Okay, good. We will go for a short break and we will come back and discuss Jumla Ismiya versus Fi'liya. What dichotomy do we have there? Inshallah, we'll make it easy. Inshallah, we'll come back shortly. Stay on. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Back again. Let's start. Do I have any question here? Both Jumla, Fa'iliyya. Aisha, what's your question? And then this at-ta'am is maf'ul bihi, then the other maf'ul mutlaq. Okay. Okay, I don't think there is a question directly for me. Let's go straight back to Jumla Ismiya and Fi'liya. Of course, as I said, you see, after we have learned what Jumla Ismiya is and what Jumla Fi'liya is, believe me, the rest of the things that we will be doing now is just like peripherals, right? We will be adding on to what we have learned. That the major thing we have finished learning so far, and that is all the structure of the language we have gone through. The kalima area, the kalima level, ism fil harf, the fragment level, idafa, mawsuf, sifa, jar wa majrur, ism al-mawsul, ism al-ishara and mushar ilayhi, as well as inna and the sisters and its ism. All those fragments we have dealt with them. Jumla ismiya and fi'liya at the bottom, we have also dealt with them. All we are going to do now is to fortify that information or that structure and all the things that we need to know about making them stick in our mind. But don't forget, please don't forget this, that for now, that design of the structure should be in your mind. So whatever and whenever you are doing any analysis, you should know at what level you are. For instance, when you say this is a fragment is not i'rab. When you say this is a fragment or this is a kalima or this is a jumla, it's not the i'rab. But when you start doing the i'rab, then you need to then know what are the components of every sentence. You know, you remember we mentioned the components of jumla ismiya is mubtada khabar and mbk. And the component of jumla fi'liya is fi'il fa'il, maf'ul, and mbf. So these things we need to maintain because those will be the yardstick that we will be using in any time we do our i'rab. Okay, because a fragment, for instance, a fragment, the whole of that fragment can be the fa'il, can be mubtada, can be khabar, but that is what we call mahal fil i'rab. So fragment is not mahal fil i'rab. Kalima is not mahal fil i'rab. Okay, but the mahal in itself is mubtada, khabar, and mbk, or fi'il, fa'il, maf'ul. These are the mahallat al-i'rabiyya. You need to understand the difference between this. Okay, so a fragment can be in a mahal. So a whole fragment can be mubtada, a whole fragment can be khabar, and a whole fragment can be fa'il also, right? But to say this is jar wa majroor is nothing. You have not said anything in terms of the i'rab. What you have said is you have identified it as a fragment. But what part of the component of the sentence it is, you have not mentioned yet. So we need to understand those components, those components of the sentences and what they mean. Anytime you want to do an i'rab of jumla ismiya, you have to mention the mubtada. You have to give me where the khabar is, and you have to tell me where the mbk is, if there is one. Anytime you are doing the i'rab of jumla fi'liya, you have to tell me where the fa'il is, where the fa'il is, where the maf'ul is. Then that fa'il, fa'il, maf'ul, mubtada, khabar, and mbk and all those things can be a kalima, can be a fragment, and can be a sentence. I hope this is clear. Okay. So now let's look at something here that is also more of an information, more information. Now look at these sentences. Nasar al-Muslimu, Nasar al-Muslimani, Nasar al-Muslimuna, and then al-Muslimu nasara, al-Muslimani nasara, and al-Muslimuna nasaru. What is the difference between these three sentences? You can see that if it is in English, somebody will translate Nasar al-Muslimu the same thing as al-Muslimu nasara. But this is jumla fi'liya and this is jumla ismiya, but there are implications, right? In this case, Nasar al-Muslimu, Nasar al-Muslimani, Nasar al-Muslimuna. You can see that the doer here is Muslim, it's a singular, masculine. Nasar al-Muslimani, the doer here is pair, masculine. Nasar al-Muslimuna, the doer here is masculine, plural, right? And you can see that the fi'il is still nasara, nasara, nasara. That's what we mentioned earlier, okay? When we say that if the doer is an outside doer, then the fi'il must be in huwa or hiya form. In this case, is the huwa form. Don't forget that. Now, just jumla fi'liya. Now, look at the jumla ismiya. Al-Muslimu nasara, but al-Muslimani nasara. So in this case, the fi'l will have to reflect the number and gender of the mubtada. This one is mubtada. This is mubtada. This also mubtada. But if a fi'l is going to be the khabar, then the fi'l must reflect the status, the gender number of the mubtada. Very, very important, right? These statements can be translated the same in English, but in Arabic, there are other implications. So in the case of these, if al-Muslim is in the beginning, then it cannot be the fa'il. Okay? It is the mubtada. In this case, the Muslim is the fa'il, Muslimani is the fa'il, Muslimuna is the fa'il. They are all in rafa status. You agree with me? The number, this one is singular, this one is pair, this one is plural. The difference is in the number, but the status is the same. Good. But al-Muslimu nasara, the Muslim help. So mubtada khabar. So mubtada marfu and nasara is fi'l jumla fi'liya fi mahall rafa khabar. Is how we say. Okay. Al-Muslimani mubtada. Nasara jumla fi'liya fi mahall rafa khabar. Al-Muslimuna mubtada. Nasaru jumla fi'liya fi mahall rafa khabar. Now, what is this jumla fi'liya? Why is this a word and I'm calling it a jumla? Yeah, it's a jumla because there is a fi'l and there is a fa'il inside. There's a fi'l here and there is a fa'il inside. There's a fi'l here and there is a fa'il inside. Now somebody will ask, but Imam, Ustaz, you said that if the fi'l is in huwa form, it can have an outside dua. But isn't this an outside dua? The outside dua must be after the fi'l. Don't forget. If the outside, this one is not a dua. This one is a subject. Mubtada. Very important. In this case, the dua is inside huwa, the dua is inside huma, and the dua is inside hum. Okay. So in the second set of sentences, in the second set, do not confuse the conversion of ism with the conversion of the fi'l. Very important. So the ism here will reflect, the fi'l here will have to reflect the ism. But in this case, the fi'l does not reflect the dua, okay, in terms of the number. Okay, it will still be huwa, huwa, huwa in huwa form. The difference between the first set of the three and the second set is that you have an inside file in this one, in the second, you have an inside file in the second set here. In the first set, the outside file is firing the inside file. This one, in this case, this one, plays down on the inside file here. So it makes it inactive because the actual file is outside. I mean, we are talking about those who are outside, who are visible. So if there is a visible file, then the inside one is downplayed. That's what it means. Okay. A closer translation for the second set of the sentences we mentioned there earlier is that the Muslim he helped. So in this case, for instance, we'll say the Muslim he helped. The two Muslims, both of them helped. A lot of Muslims, all of them helped. Okay. So this is what he's saying here. So you can see the Muslim he helped. For the dual, it's the two Muslims, both of them helped. For the plural, the Muslims they helped. Okay. For feminine, al-Muslimatu nasarat, al-Muslimatani nasarata, al-Muslimatu nasarna. But if it had been fi'l at the beginning, I would say nasarat al-Muslima and nasarat al-Muslimatan and nasarat al-Muslimatun. So the nasarat will be repeated here. Okay, you have to apply the number and gender to both when the fi'l is after the ism. So if the fi'l comes after the fi'l, then it has to reflect the gender and the number of the subject in this case. The rule says when the fi'l is before the rafa ism, okay, when the fi'l is before the rafa ism, then it's jumla fi'liya. Now the fi'l remains in huwa or here form. Therefore, only gender has to match. In this case, only the gender has to match. Like nasarat al-muslimatan. You can see that the gender has matched, okay? But the number doesn't match, okay? When the fi'l is after the rafa ism, now this is before, but if the fi'l is after the rafa ism, it becomes jumla ismiya, not fi'liya anymore. Now, if it is jumla ismiya, then the fi'l must match the ism in number and gender. So number and gender here, but here only the gender will match. Okay, al-muslimatani nasarata, nasarata. So in this case, it have to meet the gender and the number. Okay, but if the fi'l comes first, then it only needs to meet the gender. Okay, let's look at this common sense observation about commanding. Now we come to commanding and forbidding. Amr wa nahi. We did mention that you cannot command in the past. لا يمكنك أن تأمر في الماضي. You can't do an amr in madi. You can't command somebody something in the past. Only in the present. And you remember that's why we did mention some time ago that present and past are actually the actual fi'ls. The command and forbidden are actually coined from the present. Okay. You can't also command someone who isn't there. You can't command a third person, third person. So it's also easier to to forbid than to command, because just make the fi'l mudari' lightest and then you put your la. But in case of the amr, that one you have to make it second person lightest. You have to drop the ta and you have to bring a helper alif, and the helper alif can either be dhamma or kisra. Okay. To make the forbidden, you just put a la in front of the fi'l mudari' lightest. Okay. For instance, anta tansuru, you help, becomes la tansur, do not help. This is a forbidden. Okay. La an-nahiya fi'l mudari' majzoom. Okay. The difference between a statement and forbidden. We did mention this. Tahzanuna is fi'l mudari' normal. La tahzanu, la tahzanu, do not get sad. But tahzanuna, if I say antum la tahzanuna, you do not, or you are not getting sad. There should be an la here. But in this la, which does not affect the noon, it's an observation. It's a normal statement. But the la that will come and then the noon will drop is known as la an-nahiya. That is the forbidden la. Steps to make a command. We did mention this. To make a command, it's to make it lightest. Number one, you make it lightest by saying tujahiduna becomes tujahidu. Tujahiduna becomes tujahidu. That's the first step. Second step, delete the ta'u. Okay, the first letter, that's the ta. That makes it present. Remove it. Then it becomes jahidu. Jahidu. Now, if the new first letter has a haraka, like jim, jahidu, you are done. So jahidu is a command form of tujahiduna. Okay, this is a command. But if the new first letter has a sukun, okay, then it is given an alif at the beginning. That's the alif that is known as the helper alif, okay, which will either be with u or a, sorry, with u or e sound. We mentioned how to do that, right? You consider the last but one letter of the fi'l. In this case, ha, okay? That is if this one is not pronounceable, but because this one is pronounceable, it's left like that, okay? Like kataba and uktub, yaktubu and uktub, jalasa and ijlis, okay? If the second last letter has u, then the alif gets u. Otherwise, it will get an e. Okay. We tried doing some of these lists today, and so I would not like us to spend much time here for the observation and forbidding. Let me take a short break and come back. We're coming to discuss Kana and his sisters. Yes. Let me take a short break and come back. We are going to discuss Kana and his sisters. This is another concept. It's very short and it doesn't take much time. And we're also going to discuss what is known as al-asma al-mawsula, as well as the difference between ma and man, you know, before we end today. Okay. So we are getting bits and pieces, you know, together. These are concepts, okay, that will add up to what we have learned so far. Stay on. We'll come back shortly. Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Okay. So we're now looking at this concept of Kana and the sisters. Kana wa akhwatuha. Now, remember inna wa akhwatuha, inna and the sisters, right? This is another one. Kana. This one is also with the sisters. It's not brothers. For some of some of us who want, Kana is still with the sisters. Okay. And these are words that have a job to do. Will you remember what inna does? Inna would make the ism after its nasb, right? Okay. And so it makes the subject nasb. It makes the subject nasb. But what we say here is that kana does not make the subject nasb. What it does, it makes the predicate rather nasb. So it allows the subject to go normal, and then it will make the predicate nasb rather. The subject is already in nasb, in rafa status, okay? And then it will make, you know, I remember, I know a lot of our ulama here will say it makes the mubtada rafa. Mubtada is already marfu. So this is one of the things we have learned, that we don't say it's actually irrelevant to say kana makes the mubtada rafa. Mubtada is already rafa, but what it does is that khabar, which is supposed to be rafa, kana will make it nasb. So that is what we just want to make clear here. So we say that the kana would maintain the rafa of the mubtada, but then it will make the khabar nasb. So inna makes the mubtada nasb, whilst the kana makes the khabar nasb. Okay, that is the, so it's like inna is the opposite of kana in terms of mubtada and khabar. Okay, but all of them will cause a nasb. That's the idea. All of them will cause nasb. You remember, default of isms are rafa. So whenever we talk about changes, it's either nasb or jar. So in this case, inna does the work of nasb but on mubtada, but kana does the work of nasb also but on khabar. Okay, that's how really it's easy for you to remember this kana and its business. The next thing we are going to look at is asma al-mawsula. I'm sure you all remember al-asma al-mawsula, when we said that the asma al-mawsula are proper. Alladhi, alladhani, alladhina, allati, allatani, allati, allati, or allawati. All these words that are known as relative pronouns, okay, there is a way to deal with them. Anytime you see them, they will have a connector. They don't stand alone. Okay, they have a connector, and that connector is called sila. So ism al-mawsul has a sila. What is the sila? What comes to explain it? But it's always connected to it. There was a time ago when I was asking, why isn't this one called a fragment? Why isn't not called a fragment like azalika and ulaika and so on? You know, I mean, later I came to do my own research and got to know that actually alladhi, you know, normally doesn't make any meaning on its own. It will always wait with that connector. For instance, when I say جاء الرجل الذي, you know, alladhi is always with that sila. Alladhi akala ta'am, for instance. So akala ta'am becomes the sila. Okay. Alladhina amanu. So the amanu gives him the sila connection. So that is, so anytime you have alladhi or alladhina, all of the ism al-mawsul, there's something called sila. And that sila, we say, and don't forget also, one other thing we say is that sila la mahalla laha min al-i'rab. It means the sila does not take any position of either fa'il or maf'ul bihi or mubtada or khabar. It is the alladhi or ism al-mawsul that will have that mahal. So anytime we do your i'rab, you realize that the ism al-mawsul will have the mahal. That means it will either be the sifa, or it will be the mubtada, or it will be the khabar, or it will be, and so on. But the sila will say la mahala lahu min al-i'rab because it is connected to the alladhi, okay, or allati. That's that. And then we will talk about ma and man. Ma and man, they are very interesting, but we'll get to know about them. You know, you remember we have the ma and man as asma al-mawsula, because they can all mean alladhi, but one is used for inanimate and one used for intelligible beings. Okay, ma is used for inanimate, which means which can have the meaning of alladhi, and man can also be meaning alladhi, but for human or intelligible beings. Okay, but we'll look at the details of this in the slide. Now, these are the sisters, but we'll talk about only few of them, the sisters of Kana, not brothers. كان بات صار ليس أصبح أضحى أمسى ظل ما زال ما دام. A lot of these ones do not occur most of the time in the Quran, but we'll look at kana and we'll look at asbaha, adha, and laysa. Okay, laysa is very special, and we'll look at how laysa is conjugated. How different is it with all the most of the sisters? Kana and the sisters. Following are the three af'al, that is the fi'ls that we are going to look at from the list of the incomplete verbs. Now, why do we, you see, this word incomplete. Incomplete means naqis. You remember, some of you who learn, who teach, kana is always analyzed as fi'l madi naqis. Naqis means it's incomplete, okay? And we'll look at the conjugations, inshallah, later. Why is it incomplete? Even though it's a fi'l, but it always deal with jumla ismiya. It's not, it doesn't go into jumla fi'liya, and that jumla is not called fi'liya because there is no fa'il. Right? Even though it is fi'l, but that fi'l is naqis. Why is it naqis? The ulama tell us because it has no fa'il. And fi'l without fa'il is actually not a fa'il, isn't it? Right. So that's it. So kana, you can say kana yakunu. And it can have mudari and it can have amr, and that's why it's a fail. So kana yakunu kun, asbaha yusbihu isbih. But this word laysa is only in madi. You don't have the mudari. Okay. So these are some of the sisters of kana. Remember, kana and her sisters are called al-af'al naqisa. Al-af'al an-naqisa. What kind of fragment is this? Who can tell me? What kind of fragment is this? And why is this one masculine and this one feminine? What kind of fragment is this? Al-af'alun naqisatu. Who can say? Tell me, or if not, I'm not going to move anywhere. Mawsuf sifa. Yes, Aisha. Which one is the mawsuf? Which one is the sifa? And what is the implication of mawsuf sifa? Af'al is what? Af'al is the mawsuf, okay? And then the naqisa is the, but the af'al, sifa mawsuf must match each other in all the status. Can you tell me how do they match here? In all the number, status, number, gender type. Af'al is plural of fi'l, yes. And what about naqisa? Is it plural? Because if you say if you say the mawsuf must match the sifa, fi raf'ihi one fi naqisa is a singular feminine. Yes, I agree. But non-human, aywa, senior asma'u, very good. Very good. That tells you that you are a senior. Okay. Af'al is broken plural and it's treated as, very good, Habib. MashaAllah. Very good. It's treated as singular feminine. Yes, because this is treated as singular feminine. When you are bringing its adjective or its sifa, it has to match the singular feminine form. Very good. Very good. Jazakallah khair. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much, Aisha. Thank you, Habib. Thank you, Asma. Very good. Okay. Thank you, Rabiu. Good. Now, it says here that kana and the sisters are called af'al naqisa. They are called incomplete verbs. And I explain why they are incomplete. They are constructed as jumla fi'liya, but grammatically they are labeled as jumla ismiya. Okay? So you can say kana yakunu kun, but if it is in a jumla, it has to be jumla ismiya. In this case, the dua is always marfu and detail is mansub. The nasb and rafa and nasb. So when we say Fatimatun talibatun, sorry, Fatimatu talibatun, Fatima is a student. Kanat Fatimatu talibatan. So the kanat, this one, Fatima becomes, in this case, Fatima is mubtada, talibatun khabar. And mubtada is always in rafa status. Khabar is also in rafa status, right? But when I say kanat Fatima to talibatan, the talibatan becomes nasb. Why? Because of kanat. So this one becomes ism kanat, and then this one becomes khabar of kanat. Okay? Note that this one becomes khabar of kanat. In this case, it's normal khabar because there is nothing that will affect it. In this case, the kanat affected it. Okay? When we say tusbihu Fatima to talibatan, Fatima becomes a student. So tusbihu becomes the same thing, one of the sisters. But tusbihu in this case is fi'l mudari. And then we will say, so fi'l mudari naqis, but there's no fa'il. But then you consider Fatima as the ism of tusbihu, and then talibatan as khabar of tusbihu. Laysat Fatima to talibatan. Fatima is not. So this laysa means is not a student. You still call Fatima ism of laysat, and then taliba khabar of laysat. So the word dua of the kana is the outside dua. That in this case Fatima, but we will come to know that here we don't call it a dua. Okay, just like in another jumla fi'liya. The outside dua is rather the fi'il. The outside dua is after the fi'il, and it's rafa normally. Yes, the fi'il should be conjugated in either here or huwa form only. The detail, which is the student, is in nasb status. Okay, so we say that Fatima is the one who is a student. So she actually takes the position of the dua. Why is it called naqis? I just explained that. I said it's naqis because it has no file. Okay. When kana is used with the word Allah, it means was and has and always be. Of course, in the Quran, even though the word kana means was, I thought there is a hidden pronoun in it. Yes, there is a hidden pronoun in kana. Yes, huwa. Yes. But in this, when it is in a sentence in jumla ismiya like this, okay, you don't have the fa'il, you have ism kana. Okay, so that is why it is naqis, right? Good. Standing alone, of course, it means was. Okay, kana, yes, he was. Okay, but when it is in jumla ismiya, or it is attached to a jumla, like it is at there, it does not, the fa, you know, you remember we said that anytime there's an outside dua, the inside dua is downplayed, right? Yes. So when kana is used with the word, I just explained this. When kana is used with the word Allah, lafz al-jalala, it will not mean was, okay? But it will mean was and has always been, or was, has always been, and will always be, okay? Very important. Kana with a half, okay? Since there are kana and the sisters are still fi'ils, that means kana and the sisters can also be used with harfs. You remember, so all fi'ils can have the harf of nasb and harf of what? Harf of jazm. Okay, we learned when when making a jumla fi'liya, nasb or jazm. Okay, by bringing in some of the harfs like sayadrusu hatta yusbiha musliman. Okay, sayadrusu, he will study, hatta yusbiha musliman, until he becomes a Muslim. So hatta caused this yusbih to become ha instead of yusbihu. Yusbihu, it became yusbiha because of the hatta. The hatta is the harf of nasb, you remember. And yusbihu, even though it's fi'l mudari', here naqis, and then the ismu asbaha is huwa. So Aisha, you don't say the fa'il, no, you say ismu asbaha, and then this is the khabar of asbaha, which is nasb status. Lan yakunu, lan here makes yakunu in nasb status by dropping the noon. Okay, lan yakunu hum, lan yakunu hum. So the ism of yakun is hum, and then kafirina is the khabar of yakun. Linakun, linakun. This is lam, the walfali. This one is the lam, harf of harf jazimat al mudara. Nakun is fi'l mudara naqis, and then the ism nakun is nahnu, and then the khabar nakun is mudarrisina. Izan takuna, izan is harf of lightest, harf jazimat al mudara, fi'l mudara majzumun. Of course, alamat jazmihi sukut nun. Okay, takuna is actually takunani. Okay, and the ism of takuna is antum, is inside. I'm sorry, antuma is inside, and then musafirina is the khabar of takuna. Okay, in tusbihi is actually tusbihina. Tusbihi, dropping of the noon caused by the in. Okay, in tusbihi, of course, this one is called in ash-shartiyya. It always works on two fi'il mudaras. Tusbihi talibatan yusbih. So tusbihi by dropping of the noon, yusbih by making it lightest. Okay, so tusbihi will become fi'il mudara, naqis, and then the ism of tusbih is what? He anti, and then talibatan becomes the khabar of tusbih, tusbih, as well as fi'l shart, and then yusbih is the jawab al-shart, fi'l mudara naqis, and then karimun is the ism of yusbih. In this case, taliban becomes the khabar of yusbih. Ma kanu muslimin. Ma is jazima al-mudari'. This is the sign of jazm, is the sukut, sukut al-nun, that is dropping of the noon. Okay, and the ism of kanu in this case is hum. Muslimin becomes the khabar, mansubun with ina, ina. Okay, lam is another harf jazimat al-mudara'. Yakunu fil mudara' majzum bi sukut al-nun. This one is fil mudara' lightest. How did I know it's lightest? Because of the the sukut of the noon, because of the noon being dropped, right? And the ism of yakun is hum. Muslimin becomes the khabar of yakun. So the main thing to know about kana and the sisters is that it does not have a fa'il, even though it's a fail. You say fi'il mudari naqis, then the fa'il, what is he that who's supposed to become the fa'il? We say is the ism of kana, or ism of asbaha, or ism of laysa, and so on. And then the khabar becomes mansub. Okay, very good. These are more examples. Lam yakun min as-sajidin. So lam yakun huwa. Okay, huwa min as-sajidin, jar wa majrur becomes the khabar of yakun. Alaysa, a istifhamiyya, laysa fil madi naqis. Allahu is the ism of laysa. Bi ahkam al-hakimin, this whole thing, jar wa majrur, mudaf mudaf ilayhi, fi mahall al-nasb, sorry, muta'alliqun bi khabar of laysa. وَلِيَكُونَ li, ay li, likay. That is the lam, half of nasb. It makes the fi'l mudari' nasb. Yakuna, then the huwa inside yakuna becomes not the fa'il, Aisha. The huwa is the ism of yakun. Min al-muqinina becomes jar majrur, muta'alliqun bi khabar yakun. Okay, and then al-haqqu min rabbika fala takunanna, anta. Takun, sorry. Al-haqqu min rabbika fala takun, rather. Fala takun. Takun here is fi'l mudara', and the dua inside, so there's no dua here, there is ism of takun, that is anta. Okay. Min al-mumtarina jar majrur, muta'alliqun bi khabar takun. Okay. Qulna ya naru kuni. Kuni is a command. Okay. A command. Kuni ay anti. Okay. So this is amr. This is nahi. This is amr. Of course, this nahi, that's why the fi'l mudari is lightest. This nahi, sorry, amr, for the fi'l amr is always lightest by dropping of the noon. Okay, kuni, kunina. Sorry, kuni anti. Kuni anti. So the ism of kun or kuni is anti. Bardan becomes the khabar of kuni. Wa atifa salaman is ma'tufa ala bardan, which is also the khabar of kuni. Okay. Ala Ibrahim, jar majrur, and so on. So, wallahu rabbuna, sorry, wallahi rabbina ma kunna mushrikin. Wallahi rabbina ma kunna. Ma is nafiya. Okay, ma is nafiya. It also causes this to become kunna, kun. It's actually kun and then na. Okay, so the na is the ism of kun. Okay, mushrikin becomes the khabar of kun. Okay. The grammar of kana. Okay, let's learn something here. When grammatically analyzing kana sentences, they are considered jumla ismiya. That's what we said. A jumla ismiya has three parts: mubtada, khabar, and muta'alliq bi khabar. In kana statements or sentences, the doer of kana is not called fa'il. It is called what? Ism kana. Ism kana is always marfu. Kana and its isms are mubtada. So both kana and the ism becomes mubtada. The detail of kana is not called maf'ul. It is called what? Khabar kana. Okay? So the khabar of kana, and it should be in nasb status. The muta'alliq bi khabar rules are the same. Don't forget. Jar wa majroor and special mudaf. Zarf. They can be MBK. You remember we said jar wa majroor and special mudafs can be special mudaf, of course, and the mudaf ilay can be what? Can be muta'alliq bi khabar. But muta'alliq bi fi'l is only jar wa majroor. Okay? These are some of the examples that has been worked out. Muhammadun imamun fil masjid. So Muhammadun is mubtada, imamun is khabar, fil masjid is MBK. Muta'alliq bi khabar. Kana Muhammadun. See, kana Muhammad. When Muhammad was standing alone, is imamun. But when kana comes, it makes the imam imaman. It becomes the khabar of kana. So this one is mubtada. Both of them, kana and Muhammad, becomes mubtada. Imaman becomes khabar. Jar majrur MBK. Lan, the moment lan comes, it makes yakunu becomes yakuna. But yakuna will still do its work by making sure that the khabar is nasb. Okay, this one works on the fi'il, and this fi'il also works on the khabar. Okay, so lan yakuna Muhammadun, this is the ism of yakun. Imaman becomes the khabar of yakun, and then fil masjid becomes muta'alliq bi yakun. Okay. Another Quran example: Kana an-nasu ummatan wahidatan. Kana and an-nasu are the mubtada. Ummatan becomes the khabar. Wahidatan is the sifa. Okay. You said, can Muhammad and Imam be mawsuf sifa? No. What is Muhammad? How can an ism, a proper name that does not become sifa? Okay. Okay. فَأَصْبَحُوا فِي دَارِهِمْ جَاثِمِينَ. So أَصْبَحُوا فِي دَارِهِمْ, jar majroor here will become متعلق, sorry, will become yes, متعلق بخبر, but مقدم, because this is the khabar. أي فَأَصْبَحُوا جَاثِمِينَ فِي دَارِهِمْ. Okay. Always we have to make sure we read through so that we know where the khabar is. Okay. We know whether if there is a fa'il or something like that. We don't just start i'rab by looking at one word. You have to read through فَأَصْبَحُوا فِي دَارِهِمْ جَاثِمِينَ فَأَصْبَحُوا فِي دَارِهِمْ جَاثِمِينَ فَأَصْبَحُوا فِي دَارِهِمْ جَاثِمِينَ. And then you realize that, okay, أَصْبَحُوا, okay, ay hum. Hum is the ism of asbaha, and then jasimin becomes the khabar. Fi darihim is actually NBK muqaddam, because it came before the khabar. Okay. And then walaysa dhakaru kal unsa. Walaysa dhakaru, both laysa and the ism are mubtada, and then kal unsa is jar wa majrur muta'alliq bi khabar al mubtada. More examples that are explained here. I want to skip here quickly and look at the conjugation. You know, you remember? Who can still remember what is this 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3? What do they represent? Who can tell me? What are these boxes representing? Who can tell me what do they represent? Why do they have 3 lines and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines? What do they represent? Please tell me before I continue. What do these boxes represent? Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Today I'm doing the talking alone, right? What do they? Yes, so yes, they represent the dama'ir. So this huwa, huma, hum, hiya, huma, hunna, anta, antuma, antum, anti, antuma, antunna, ana, nahnu. Very good. Very good. It's the dama'ir. So if you remember your dama'ir, and this is the number, singular, pair, plural. If you remember the table we mentioned, okay? And these 2 represent the third person, second person, and then the first person. The first line is for masculine, the second line is for feminine, and so these things, you know, this is the very good thing about this program, that when we are done with it, you have a table in your mind, a table that gives you a focus. Instead of, you know, formally when you are asked to call the dama'ir, you will be saying huwa and anta and here, and you know, it's put in more, you know, arranged manner, where you have the number, where you have the gender, where you have the person, and then you have the so number, gender, persons. Okay, so you're able to know that the first 2 lines are for third person, the second 2 lines are for second person, and then the last line is for first person. Of course, because we said first person, both masculine and feminine use the same thing. So kana yakunu, sorry, kana, then you start by saying yakunu huwa, yakunani huma, yakununa hum, takunu anta, sorry, takunu hiya, takunani huma, yakunna hunna, takunu anta, takunani antuma, takununa antum, takunina anti, takunani antuma, takunna antunna, akunu ana, nakunu nahnu. Kana huwa. So this is the mudari, of course, this is the madi. Kana huwa, kana huma, hum kanu, anti, sorry, hiya kanat, huma kanata, hunna kunna. Anta kunta, antuma kuntuma, antum kuntum, anti kunti, antuma kuntuma, antunna kuntunna, ana kuntu, and nahnu kunna. So this mudari and this madi of kana. Okay, and then this is the mudari, of course, this is the normal. That's the normal. And then if it becomes mansub, becomes yakuna, sorry, yakuna and yakuna, yakunu and takuna. So huwa yakuna. Yakuna, of course, because there is a harf of nasb here. You know, an yakuna, an yakuna, an yakunu, an takuna, an takuna, an yakunna, an takuna, an takuna, an takunu, an takuni, an takuna, an takunna, an akuna, and an nakuna. If it is preceded by harf of nasb, okay? If it's preceded by harf of jazm, it becomes in yakun, in yakuna, in yakunu, in takun, in takuna, in yakunna. Of course, unna and antunna. Don't forget, their noon do not drop. Okay, the noon do not drop. Okay, in takun, in takuna, in takunu, in takuni, in takuna, in takunna, and in akun and in nakun, all following the pronouns accordingly. Okay, and in nahi we say la takun and la takuna, la takunu, la takuni, la takuna, la takunna. Don't forget that in nahi the rest of the pronouns do not work. The third pronouns are not here. The first person pronoun is also not here. The same thing with amr. Anta kun, antuma kuna, antum kunu, anti kuni, antuma kuna, antunna kunna. Do not, there is no amr of third person and there is no amr of first person. Okay, and then laysa. Laysa, we said, is only for madi. So laysa and laysa huma. So laysa huwa, huwa laysa, huma laysa, hum laysu, anta lasta, antuma lastuma, antum lastum, anti, sorry, anta lasta, sorry, anti, sorry, I think the arrangement is huwa laysa, huma laysa, hum laysu. Okay, and then here is anta lasta, antuma lastuma, antum lastum, ana lastu, nahnu lasna. If it's a feminine, we will say here laysat, huma laysata, hunna lasna, anti lasti, antuma lastuma, antunna lastunna. Okay, okay. هو ليس، هو هما ليس، هم ليسوا، هي ليست، هما ليستا، هن لسنا، أنت لست، أنتما لستما، أنتم لستم، أنت لست، أنتما لستما، أنتن لستن، أنا لست, and then نحن لسنا. Finally, man and ma. Man and ma. What is this business? You know, it says here that take a look at tu'allimani mimma ullimta rushda. Mimma. You remember what we said about the harf of jar when it's attached with ma, the nun drops, right? So the same thing with here. Mimma and amma. La yus'alu amma yaf'alu wa hum yus'alun. The same thing here. Mimma, mimma, min and, sorry, min man. Bal antum basharun mimman. Okay, the nun gets dropped. Okay, now notice that we have the ism mawsul, ma and man. So ma and man can be asma al mawsula, which means alladhi. In the above ayah, they are all in the place of jar. Why are they majroor? Because they are preceded by min or an, right? Remember when we first studied harf of jar, we learned that when min and an come before the ma and man, then the nun is dropped and the two words are joined. Therefore, min plus ma becomes mimma, an plus ma becomes amma, an plus man becomes amman, and min plus man becomes mimman. Now that we recognize that, we know that mimma is actually min ma. Okay, since min is half of jar, and that means that the ma is majroor, right? So it's fi mahall jar. That's what we say. These are some of the examples of that i'rab. Ya'lamuna ma taf'alun. So this ma in this case is alladhi. So ya'lamuna alladhi taf'alun. So this ma would mean alladhi, and so it's ism al-mawsul is here. So ya'lamuna is fi'l mudari', and the dua is una, hum. Okay, hum ya'lamuna. Ma taf'aluna, the whole of that becomes the khabar, sorry, the maf'ul. Why? The question is, what are they knowing? Or what are they knowing? Okay, and then you say ma taf'aluna. So the ma is the ism al-mawsul fi mahall al-nasb. So this is the maf'ul actually. The taf'aluna becomes the sila. You know, I mentioned sila earlier on. Silat al-mawsul, that means it is a connector to the ism al-mawsul, but the ism al-mawsul here is the maf'ul. Okay? And then the taf'aluna in itself is a jumla, fi'l mudari, and the dua here is antum. Okay? Ya'lamuna ma taf'alun. And this one, tu'allimani mimma ullimta, this is the i'rab. It said mim is harf of jar. Okay? Harf jar. Ma is ism al-mawsul, majroor. Mimma. So anytime we see this min harf of jar attached with min, attached with ma or man, then that ma or man as well as ma al-mawsula. Sorry. Ullimta rushdan becomes jumla fi'liya, the sila of ma. So ma will be the majroor, but this one is sila of the majroor, la mahalla lahu min al-i'rab. Ullimta, we'll come to learn about this, inshallah, maybe tomorrow or after. This is known as mabni al-majhul. We'll come to learn about it, so I won't take much time here. Rushdan is maf'ul bihi. فاتقوا النار التي وقودها الناس والحجارة. Okay, اتقوا fa is harf atf or istinafiyya. Ittaqu becomes fi'l amr. The fa'il is antum because of the u and ta. Ittaqu. And then nara is the maf'ul. Okay? And allati is the ism al-mawsul. So allati here is ism al-mawsul. And where is the sila? Waquduha an-nasu wal hijara. Jumla silat al-mawsul. Okay? And of course, silat al-mawsul, we always say la mahalla lahu min al-i'rab, because it doesn't take the position of either the fa'il or maf'ul or sifa or so and so on. Okay? Waquduha is mubtada and idafa, and then an-nas wal hijara becomes the khabar. Okay? Okay, so we will stop here. Inshallah, tomorrow we will look more into other aspects of the sentences, and probably we'll look at mabni al-majhul. But generally, today we have seen in detail what fi'l is all about and how we can conjugate the fi'l looking at the fi'il, fa'il, maf'ul, and all kinds of maf'ul that we have learned. We have also learned about certain fi'ils that are incomplete. They are incomplete because they do not have a fa'il, but they have an ism and a khabar. Okay, and that is kana and the sisters. And we have also learned about ma and man as asma al-mawsula. Inshallah, we'll meet tomorrow. Sorry for taking more time of yours. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر وإياكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We'll meet tomorrow, inshallah. The document, Abiba, what document is that? Is that Abiba? No, sorry, Aminu Abba. What document are you talking about? You can the remaining page of what? The remaining page of what? Yes. Okay, I'm going to share. Okay. In today's lesson, I don't understand what. Okay, let's discuss that on the platform, on the WhatsApp platform, inshallah. Okay. But I will surely share another document today that will supplement what we have for more details, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.